Therapy is a fascinating process, and I'm honored to be a therapist because it's just great. And sometimes the topic of enlightenment comes up. Now, I think that most people think about enlightenment the wrong way. I think they assume that enlightenment is a destination. I'm working towards enlightenment. Well, fair enough, okay. But enlightenment can't be a destination because there is only one final destination in life, and that's the terminus where we stop the journey. I think that we have to recognize that enlightenment is a process. But what kind of process is it? Well, it's the process of lightening your load, of enlightening yourself, of dropping your burdens, the things that weigh you down, the things that you carry. And if you think about it in terms of anxiety, then if we wanted to become enlightened or lightening our load with respect to panic and anxiety, it means dropping those things that create panic and anxiety for us. So it's like we become lighter and lighter and lighter. And if you watch my videos, you'll know that I say the object of the exercise is forget to have a problem. The object of the exercise is to forget to have a problem. So you become lighter and lighter and lighter, dropping your burdens until I might say to you, or someone might say to you, so how are you going? What's happening in your week? And you might say, I forgot to be anxious this week, or I forgot to panic, or I forgot to worry. I forgot to have a problem because you have dropped your burdens and left them behind. So enlightenment is a bit like the process of therapy, where you continually drop your burdens until you are light enough to feel that you can get on with your life without being burdened, without being held back or restricted in some way. How do you do that? Well, if you were seeking spiritual enlightenment, I guess you'd seek out a teacher, which is kind of interesting. But nevertheless, I do think that enlightenment is an individual journey. A teacher can tell you what to do, and they say, well, this is what I did to become enlightened. Yeah, but I'm not you, right? I have to do it myself. I have to do it my way. So I think the teacher tells you the process that you need to go through, like the trodden path. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people have done this, and it's worked out pretty well for them. So I have created the new Panic Pit Stop program, which is a self-paced cognitive behavior therapy program that you use. So it's like the stepping stones that you take to enlighten yourself, to lighten your burden. And as you take these stepping stones, you drop beliefs about yourself that are unhelpful. You drop practices, you drop things that are holding you back or restricting you. And you could call them mind traps or life traps. But basically, they're barriers that stop you from having the life you want. As you go through the Panic Pit Stop program, you drop these things and you become more free, more enlightened. Now, because it's Mental Health Awareness Week, I've put together the Panic Pit Stop program with the Stop Overthinking 7-Day Challenge. Overthinking is a bit like worry, it's a bit like ruminating. It saps your mental energy for no good reason. And so it's a bit like when people say, well, I feel stuck, or I don't feel like I'm progressing in my life. Now, everything's always moving, but the question is, what direction are you traveling in? If you're worrying, if you're overthinking, if you're ruminating, you're going around in circles. That's just going to make you feel, I don't know what's going on. What we want is a progressive movement. And so when we tackle overthinking, worry, and ruminating, we kind of break ourselves from this whirlpool of staying stuck, and we start moving in a more linear fashion. We start going towards where we want to be. So the new Panic Pit Stop program and the Stop Overthinking 7-Day Challenge, and I've added in a massive whopping 25% discount for the entire length of your subscription. So as you take this journey, you will always get a 25% discount. That's fantastic. Now, when you join, I'm also going to give you the Make Worry History program for free and the Panic Pit Stop workbook, which is a nice accompaniment because actually it's nice to see stuff on paper if you want to print it out. It's in a PDF format, and it gives you some extra things that you can work through. So you're going to get the new Panic Pit Stop program, the Stop Overthinking 7-Day Challenge, the Make Worry History, and the Panic Pit Stop workbook, and a whopping 25% discount. So if you feel like you struggle with things that you'd rather not struggle with. If you feel burdened, if you feel that life is heavier, it's harder to walk, it's like walking in mud, you're not getting to where you want to go, this is a brilliant opportunity for you to start to take back control by retraining your brain and making different things happen. Till you get to the point where you could say, I forgot to have a problem, because you've retrained your brain and you've enlightened yourself, you've dropped your burdens, and you have allowed yourself to become free. Now I'm going to give you a little enlightenment task right now. There's a famous story of Zen masters. So in Japan, if you want to be enlightened, you might go to a Zen Buddhist master, and this Buddhist master will give you a koan, a Zen Koan, Koan, I think. Basically, it's a conundrum. It's a question without an answer. So this is the classic, right? What is the sound of one hand clapping? So the student is given this koan, and they sit and they meditate for a month or a couple of months, trying to figure out what the sound of one hand clapping is. But what the koan does is it sets up a conflict in here, because it's an unanswerable question. But trying to resolve the unanswerable question is like a progressive thing. And when you realize the answer, I won't tell you what the answer is because I don't know it, but when you get to some point, you go, "Cool, I feel like I've moved on. I've not necessarily answered the question, but perhaps I've recognized that the question is meaningless, and so I can let it go. So I've achieved freedom." Something. There's a process of enlightenment from chewing on the koan. Let me give you my own version of a Zen koan. It's this. Say this to yourself. Do I need to be anxious? Do I need to be anxious? Well, if you do the exercise, right, you'll sit and think about it for a moment or two, and you'll go, well, no. Okay. The next thing you'll say, well, why am I anxious? So if you don't need to be anxious, and you are anxious, you have illustrated to yourself that your brain is making a mistake. The whole principle of my active self-help system is that panic and anxiety, depression, most things, in fairness, are mistakes made by your brain. Your brain doesn't know that it's making a mistake, so it continues to do it. You accept it because you just accept what your brain does, and you never really ask the question why. So ask yourself the question, do I need to be anxious? If you don't need to be anxious, then why are you anxious? Well, you might not know. Absolutely fine. There's many reasons why you'd be anxious. The Panic Pit Stop program will take you through the process of retraining your brain to stop giving you anxiety and panic, of course, which is the pinnacle of anxiety. So use my version of a Zen koan. Why do I need to be anxious? Do I need to be anxious now? And see what happens. Because you've got two choices, really. If you don't need to be anxious, you can do something about it. If you don't need to be anxious, you can not do something about it. So nothing will change unless you put some kind of momentum or progress into it. So I hope you found this interesting. I look forward to working with you inside the new Panic Pit Stop program. You'll get all of these other programs which will help you to really take back control of your mental health. So thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.